Hello, it is I, the voice of myself. Hi, there I am. Uh, Happy Friday. Happy the 1st of March. It's stupidly warm. I have the windows open today. I'm wearing short sleeves in March. It's crazy. Um, so, I was gifted one of these. Get it out of the glare a little bit. Spaghetti squash. I have had spaghetti squash before. It is a bit of an odd duck. Baraka boy. Hi. We're not making a pie. No. Uh, I'm gonna make spaghetti out of the spaghetti squash. Um, if you've never had one of these, they're kind of weird. Uh, they 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 cook up into like these long noodle strands. So we're gonna do that, and I'm gonna cook it in a way I've never cooked it before, which is roasted whole. Um, I'm used to doing these in the microwave, which is really fast, but it gives you a microwaved result. Um, so yeah, that's the plan. So we're gonna roast this thing. We're gonna make a pasta dish out of it. But since this is gonna be a vegetable that is gonna be our noodles, I was thinking that the sauce would include the bread, include the grain element. So I'm gonna try making a breadcrumb based herb sauce or something like that. We'll feel out that space as we roll into it. It's going to be a thing. Step one for this thing is preheat your oven. So, oven on 400. I don't know what that is off the top of my head in Celsius, but it's warm. Um, I don't think we're going to put any meat in it this time. I don't think we're going to put any meat in this time. I was thinking about the profile of what I want to go to, and I could throw some anchovy in at the beginning for flavor, but I don't know that we're going to be adding meat this time. I think we're just going to not bother with it. I don't always bother doing meat. I've got beans. We could do a beans and greens style sauce. Selena, hi. Oh no! Oh no! Wet bed is the worst. Hi. Welcome, welcome. Here's our squash, our squash. So yeah, we're gonna roast this guy whole. We've got the oven preheating. The skin on one of these is watertight, and if you just throw it in there, it's liable to burst. So we're just going to poke it with a sharp knife so that there's some place for steam to vent. Doesn't need a ton. It just needs to not be completely watertight. So when the interior inevitably starts to boil, it doesn't just go. Doing it this way, so the way I would have done it previously is you cut it in half, you put it face down in the microwave, and you microwave it, and then it sort of steams itself in the in itself. Selena didn't even think of a fan. Well, we'll be here. The trouble with cutting this, with doing the microwave and with doing the other way to do it in the oven is that you have to cut this thing in half. And these guys are pretty hard. And I've never done it this way, so we'll see if it works, but I'd rather be able to do it this way and not have to fight with cutting this thing clear in half. I am going to put foil on my pan though, to aid in our cleanup, since I suspect it is going to leak some juices at least somewhat. In my experience, they taste like a very mild squash. So not even like pumpkin or those dark orange squashes. It's a very light flavor. But then yeah, it has those really interesting long stringy fibers. And they're not really super fibrous, but they stay together after you cook it, and you can sort of pull them apart, and they look a lot like noodles. Hence the name. So that guy is going to go over here and rest in the corner. Oh, my lighting on that angle is not good. Do a quick adjusto. So this guy's going to wait for us over here. And then it has to roast for an hour. So we have lots of time to think about stuff. We have lots of time to prep everything else. We could take the time to slowly build a sauce instead of doing a fast sauce. We have option. I'm not set in stone at all on the sauce part. Let's see if I've got any random fruits and vegetables laying around. We've got some herbs. But anyways, yes, that is the overall plan. I think that goes well with butter. It's butter. Parsley, mushrooms, cheese. If we're already breaking and putting cheese in, then I'm not worried about butter. We could make a creamy sauce. Try a squash spaghetti meatball. I don't have any thawed out meat right now, so we'd be thawing meat if I was going to go for that. I'm not super inclined to go for meats. I do have some different kinds of mushrooms. We could if you really want a protein in this, we could go with mushrooms. But I was thinking beans. I was thinking beans would be a good topper. And let's see. Part of the reason I want to do an herb sauce is because I have quite a bit of parsley that needs. It's getting a little wilty. I want to use it all up. I'm not getting that wilty. This parsley right here, we're going to use a large chunk of this. Some of these small ones are on the bottom are getting a little wilty. Why did my chat not scroll down when you talked? So going with beans, we're going with canned beans. Beans and greens is a pretty easy thing to put together. perhaps too easy. I've got to be cognizant of how much time things take. Ooh, okay. I've got ideas. We don't need to look at that squash. So there's a couple of these left. If you remember these were the roast garlics from our roast garlic experiment with the 3 different ways of roasting garlic. I've got a couple of those left. They would be good, I think, mashed or blended into something. I want to use them up because they've been sitting around here for around a week and they're not going to last much longer. So, garlic, parsley, potentially beans, potentially mushrooms. We have some cheeses. We have some fish. That's not a terrible shout. Beans and greens. I have some greens to throw in. We can go with arugula. I don't actually know if beans or mushrooms have more protein. I know that they're both sources of protein, and I know that they're less than any meat. I'm kind of waffling around right now because I know that the squash is going to take a long time, and I know the sauce is not going to take as long of a time. I might even have to come up with a second dish to serve alongside this. If our main is a vegetable, I don't know. Last week was an oddity. I usually cook one single plate things instead of one of those multi-plated things. Oh, I didn't post any of those pictures. I'm way behind on the Instagram. Garlic, onions. What else have we got? Got some ginger, some onions, some seaweed, some more mushrooms, a very ripe plantain. Probably should use that soon. I don't think I want to use plantain here. I'll have to keep that in mind so it doesn't go gross on me. My oven has clicked, so we're going to put the squash in the oven, and then that's going to be the start of our timer. I want to get this guy going post-haste. Oop. Actually, before I put that in there, he's too tall. We have to move the rack. We have to move the rack to make room for him. Okay. It's too tall for the way the racks were in there. Okay, and that's our timer. Paddock Boy, you are officially first today. No one can take that away from you. Congratulations. I'm going to start. Miss Sepsi. Hi. Happy Friday. Happy March. I've got short sleeves and sandals on in March, and it feels so wrong. Hi. The squash has just gone in the oven. So we have an hour to think about stuff. I think there's going to be a lot of slow chatting today. Just on account of I have time to think. committed to butter. Committed to some butter in the pan. I want to commit. We have to just start committing to things so that I can't continue whinging. Excuse me. Okay. It's not much of a commitment. We're committing to things. Some garlic. Some onion. And if we want to amp up the savoriness without going with the meat option, some nutritional yeast and some MSG give us a four-way like savoriness bomb to drop on this. I'm thinking about Italian flavors, so this is store-bought basil, which I've been using because I bought it and have to use it, but I'm going to supplement it with some of my own basil, which I put here. I dried the end of my basil in the fall, and we don't use it very often, but spring is coming around, and I'm going to be producing more basil, so we may as well get aggressive with our basil. And yes, it was purple basil to begin with, so it is a dark purplish color now. It's not gone all brown on me. It's stayed all purple. Bookwoman, happy March. Hi. March has come in like a summer. March has come in like a May. It's crazy. I mentioned twice already, I'm wearing short sleeves today. I've got windows open. I'm wearing sandals. So, spices, herbs. Our squash is making some sounds back there. Pepper. What else? We're going to use up the roasted garlics. What else are we going to go with? We're going to add cheese and butter. I gotta take a peek at this thing. It's making all sorts of weird noises in there. What are you doing? It's doing very little. It's only been in there for 5 minutes. The fact that it's making weird noises after just 5 minutes has me a little bit worried. But I guess we'll trust the process. Yeah. Vatica suggested meatballs. Ooh, I won't be seeing that movie until next week. How was it? What did you think? Without spoiling anything. Let's see. Onion, bread, egg, garlic, and some meat. Maybe. I kind of have an image in my head of what I'm shooting for, and the image didn't include any kind of meatball, so it's not a bad idea, but it's clashing with what was in my head, so that's why I'm not jumping at the chance to incorporate it. For instance, I'm not making a tomato-based sauce. We're making an herb-based sauce. We're making an oil-based sauce essentially. Let's start melting our butter and some olive oil. Nizan, hi, hello. We are taking a long, slow think about what we're doing today. I'm going to keep olive oil handy. It's 2 tablespoons of olive oil to go with our roughly 2 tablespoons of butter, which we're going to slowly melt together. Nizan wants a moisten. We're going to keep the olive oil handy. I won't be moistening with the olive oil. Moist. So yeah, I think what we're going to do is we're just going to gently combine things. What do we think on the beans versus mushrooms debate? The option could also be neither, if neither of those sound like a good pick. We could also have some dry mushrooms just to sort of amp things up. We're making spaghetti. We are making a spaghetti squash spaghetti. So what we're thinking about is a sauce. So if you missed the beginning, it's already in the oven. It's going to be in there for a while, so we have lots of time to think about it. I was gifted a whole spaghetti squash, which we are roasting whole. We're going to shred out, and it is going to form a pasta base that we are going to sauce up. And I had the idea of constructing an herb and breadcrumb sauce. Which could be an herbs and oil sauce that I then do like an herbed breadcrumb on top. Because the idea in my head, I'm thinking, okay, if our main element, our noodles, are the vegetable, then we can do a starch as a topping. So beans versus mushrooms would be in the topping for a squash spaghetti. And so far, I have measured out onion powder, garlic powder, MSG, nutritional yeast, 2 kinds of basil, oregano, black pepper, and I want to include the last few of our roasted garlics just because they're a little bit long in the tooth. So we have a lot of sort of this type of flavors going on. Oh, also, parsley's getting a little bit wilty, so we want to use up some parsley. So we're going to use a big chunk of that parsley. I don't have any fresh herbs aside from the parsley and some green onion. But we have lots of like storage onion. We also have some vegetables. We still have some of that asparagus. We could throw some asparagus in as a topping. That is another vegetable. So maybe it's not the best pick. So yeah, that's where I'm sitting. And I've decided to just start committing to some things. So I committed to all those herbs. I've committed to 2 tablespoons of olive oil and 2 tablespoons of butter, which we're now melting the butter into it. We're gonna do a quick get these guys to combine. So it's gonna be pretty oily, but there should be lots of dry elements going in. Oh, and as for breadcrumb, I have half of a baguette here that is super dried up. Sand pasta. Yes, that's kind of what's in my head. That's kind of what's in my head. But I don't necessarily want it to be completely like that. And we still have the option of adding meats, although anything major is frozen, so it would be minor things. How about, here's an idea. Oops. Drop it on the ground first. It's fine. It's in a bag. We have some fresh mushroom, but I also have some old dry ones. I say old dry ones. Some dried ones. Like this thing. And if we just sort of lean in to making this like a savory nonsense. I've decided, okay, we're leaning into making some nonsense. Push these all to the side. Rocker, hi, happy March. Welcome, welcome. I've decided we're gonna get stupid with this. Just keep adding. Need to get this thing out anyways. Yeah, so far all we've got is spices and a squash, and I'm kind of I've been waffling around, and we're just committing to stuff. We just have to commit to stuff. So we're breaking this mushroom up enough to fit in the chute there. We have an ad. Welcome to the ad. throw in one of those. So that is a... Ooh, what mushroom was that? It was an old maitake that I dried up, I think. I forget. Some kind of savory mushroom. A shiitake. I don't need the top on immediately. And we'll throw in... Take the gnarly stem bit off. A couple of these old wine cap. And we're going to make like a mushroom powder. Dry mushrooms keep essentially forever, so I'm not concerned about using up mushrooms, but let's see what happens if we just grind these up. Power on. Little thing on. Oh, it does that on its own. We're gonna just... Ooh, should let the dust settle. Mushroom dust. Okay, they're smaller and softer. Interesting. They've been slightly tenderized. Okay. We are going to start them like that. That's part one. Like I said, just have to start committing to stuff. And I'm also going to give us some liquid for those mushrooms to chew on in the form of some wine. Because otherwise they're just going to form a paste with our oils. Yeah, I know, I should have used it for a deglaze, but oh well, too late now. You know, I actually think I'm going to add just some plain old water as well. Just so there's enough in there for these things. We're in full just riffing mode now. Because the mushrooms were dry, so they need to rehydrate so that they're edible. This way they're a little bit sort of coarse. Enough of that became a fine powder that we're going to get a really good infusion of it, but then also there's enough big pieces that will have some visible chunks left. If we're making a mushroom sauce, herby mushroom sauce. Are we making an herby mushroom sauce, or are we making a mushroomy mushroom sauce? Oh man, I need to just get my act together. Let's throw my dry spices in, or my dry herbs in now as well. They can hydrate and infuse, and we will treat this as the base of our sauce. I'm gonna heat up a little bit, get that to start to bubble just a little bit. I almost don't want to add the bread now. I almost think we're leaning away from bread and going with herbs and mushrooms, which would lend me towards wanting to add another vegetable to it, which we have some options. We have some greens. We also have some asparagus. We could do both. We could make this just an all vegetable thing. The squash has stopped making weird noises, so that's a good sign, I think. I hope, maybe. Um, so, what's everyone else having? Maybe I'll grab inspiration from what you guys are concocting right now. Since I'm having a hard time grabbing inspiration from just myself. I still like the idea of doing this and then thickening it with bread. I don't know if that's going to work. You're also going to need some salt, because now that there's no salt component to any of this. Sepsi's having a BLT. BLTs are very good. I have neither the L nor the T, and my B is frozen. Mags, who is also here, hi Mags, is having a pork loin and cauliflower and rice. Interesting. Interesting. What I've kind of ended up with here is a mushroom stock concentrate, a mixed mushroom concentrate. So we could just keep building. We could just keep building on top of that. Yeah. Okay. I'm just gonna keep building on top of what we've got started there. So to that end, stalk of celery.
Carrots are looking like they tried to sprout in my fridge, which is not
Good of them. I obviously don't use carrots very often. I should buy smaller packages of carrots. A bit of a sprouty carrot. I think we're gonna trim those little guys off. Flamingo is also here. What did you have for dinner? I'm looking for inspirations. Pepperoni pizza and beer. Cereal. You know, I would take that as an inspiration if I hadn't already taken that as an inspiration. We're adding some dry bread to this. I think we're committing to adding some dry bread to this. And we're cheating with the device here. And we're gonna trim down this carrot. Carrots have got real sprouty. I'll put the blade back in. Just here, I'll swap you guys over so you can see what I'm doing. So my carrot has little roots forming on it. So to get rid of those, I'm just going to run the blade vertically across the surface. If your carrots are producing little roots like this and little leaves at the top, it means they're trying to sprout. And as they do, they will be using up their own tasty, carroty goodness to produce the little leaves and the little roots. So, don't let them do that. Should have hit the drive-through. I mean, honestly, cereal's probably better for you than anything you'd get from a drive-through. I think we're going to sprinkle it on at the end. I think that's what I'm decided. I'm not going to use it to sponge up the liquid, which is why I'm adding more kind of wet vegetable things at this stage. You are correct, though. If I added it too early, it would become very soggy. And we've kind of changed direction as I've been standing here waffling around. Ironically, without waffles. Right, Cybertraz is here. Oh my god, Cybertraz is here too. Everyone's come out of the woodwork for March. Happy March. I need to break out the waffle maker and make waffly things. We were going to try making waffle hash browns. And then I never did that. Everyone's here. Everyone's here. Watching me, making me all self-conscious. So, we're just going to blast all this stuff together with the machine here. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. I'm going to throw all of my roasted garlics in there as well. My mushroom stuff is starting to dry out a little bit, so we have to get on this. Power on. And we're just going to blitz this stuff for a while until it is got big weird shards left in it, but it's supposed to be mostly finely minced. That's pretty good. So that's the cheater's way to do a sofrito. And I don't think I want to use all of this, but I based it around the size of one stalk of celery. So we're going to add this to that. Which is turning into a little bit of a mud. Yeah, we definitely don't want more than a scoop of that. So I'll save the rest for future things. We've lost all of our liquid over here, but those vegetables we just added they have their own liquid in them. So if we can get it to express out, and there's no salt in any of this so far, so I'm not too fussed about adding. Oh my God. Flamingo's feeling social. I appreciate it. But also lurking is the backbone of any channel, and I appreciate that as well. Oh. That is a good emote. Well, thank you. Well, thank you. And yes, if you ever have any questions, please jump in and ask me here, or, um, but how do I get the thing? This thing. Or here in our Discord, where I've had some lovely question discussions. And where you can find pictures of my foods, the glamour shots we take in the other room, much more consistently than when I forget to put them on Instagram. This has become kind of a mud-colored thing. Okay. Actually, I don't need a new container. I have the one that the garlic was in. I'm going to take this opportunity to quickly save up the remaining sofrito. Now I'll have to use that soon. Once it's all minced up like this, it doesn't keep real long. I think we're going to add more liquid to this. I think we're going to end up adding more liquid to this just because it seems too dry at the moment. Whew. The sofrito over here has a pungent smell to it. It is the food processed onion and garlic is definitely jumping out and assaulting my nose. Oof. With the leftover sofrito, so sofrito is essentially Italian mirepoix. Mirepoix being carrot, celery, onions minced up real fine and then gently sweated in a pan on a low heat to extract their moisture and to sort of wake up the sweetness of the vegetables. It's the base of a lot of things. When you're building like a tomato sauce. So sofrito is different in that it's less fussy and it often contains garlic. But you start using it as the base of something. So if you're building a stew, you would start with a sofrito or a mirepoix, or if you're in the American South, a trinity, which is the same thing but with peppers instead of carrots. And you put that in the pan first, and you gently cook it. Get the flavors all developed and expressed out, and then you build the rest of it on top of it. So then you add meat and potatoes and tomatoes and whatever to make your stew or your sauce for pasta or your soup or something. So there's honestly a million things you could do with the leftover sofrito, but nothing specific. It's usually not worth to make it in advance because you can just keep the raw parts on hand and they keep better in their intact form. I'm going to add my dry powders to this. In this case, I'm kind of doing that, except the sauce that we're building here is not very saucy at the moment. It keeps making me think I need to add more liquid to this at some point. And it's because the mushrooms have soaked up so much of the liquid that was in there. Remember, we started out with 2 tablespoons of butter and 2 tablespoons of olive oil, to which I added like a 1/4 cup of wine and another 1/2 cup of water, and it's sizzled away. So we could add something creamy, or we could add something liquidy and then use, we're not going to have any pasta water. So we're not going to have a pre-infused starchy water to turn, that's a consideration. I'm also really hungry, which is making me make poor decisions. I don't know why I'm so hungry. I had a big lunch. And then I had a highly caffeinated soda, and I think I had a sugar crash afterwards. I don't want to add any fruit juices to this. I don't want to add more wine because then I would have to cook the liquid off to ensure that we don't have an alcoholic result. So we could end up with a cream sauce. We could end up with a creamy sauce with either evaporated milk or cream forming the liquid, and we just add it in really late so that it thickens up. It doesn't congeal on us, because it'll do that eventually. It's hungry and making poor decisions. Yes, exactly. I end up serving myself giant heaps of food because I'm hungry, and then I overeat and I feel bad. The stuff there on the stove, though, will largely just kind of take care of itself at this point. I just have it on low. It's gently sizzling. Uncle Stinky! Well, welcome from the far-off distant land of Seattle. How's it going? I have a story time. Let me while I'm putting away some dishes and we're thinking and things are sizzling away, I'm going to dive into some story time. So yesterday, I was awakened at the crack of dawn by directly above my head in my bedroom. Which then proceeded to travel around the ceiling, travel into other rooms, rapidly travel all over the house. This horrible glumping sound. Looking into Hexclad pans. Let me finish my story, and then I'll dive into Hexclad pans. So I followed the sound all over the house until it went over to one corner, and out from under the eaves on the outside of the house, a squirrel emerges, who had gotten into the void in the ceiling and was running all over the house. I messaged my landlord when it was still in the ceiling that there was a squirrel in the ceiling, and I didn't know what to do about it, because if it hadn't found its own way out, I have no idea how we would have gotten it out of there. Fortunately, it emerged on its own, and then also, fortunately, my landlord was on top of things, came over quickly with a worker in tow and tools and supplies, found the hole under the eaves and sealed it up with, I hope, pretty solid. We'll see. Squirrel hasn't been back, but it was just yesterday. I don't think the squirrel wanted to be in there either, but that was, I hated that. As for Mags, you are asking about Hexclad pans, which I know have been advertised heavily, especially by some pretty big name professional chefs. Now, for one thing, I'll preface by saying I have never used a Hexclad pan. I have never encountered one in person, so I cannot personally speak to the quality of the pans. I have no idea. The aggressive marketing around them has me super suspicious. They have clearly paid quite a lot of money to get quite a lot of endorsements. I have not seen small-time chefs online, the kind who don't receive endorsements, use the pans, which also has me suspicious. Because if it's a good quality product, you'd think people would be buying into it. The people who use the stuff, use these things all the time. But neither of those things are indictments of the product. You're just a little suspicious. I think that stuff is cooked enough that I don't want to cook it too aggressively anymore, and not without adding something more to it. Here's what makes me the most suspicious. Well, I'll wait. Wait. Ad just started. While the ad is rolling, I will. Drop my bread on the floor and it will shatter into pieces because it is very, very dry. We're gonna have to sweep in here now. Wonderful. 30 seconds. Well, that was a treat for you, those of you who were here with me during the ad. You got to listen to me drop bread. Our squash is coming up in the next 15 minutes, so we are getting there. There's crumbs all over the... damn it. I don't want to clean that. We're going to crush these the old-fashioned way with a plastic bag. We're back from the ad. So the thing that makes me the most suspicious about Hexclad is I inquired. I'm a rare specimen of a millennial who still goes on Facebook. I hate it constantly, but I keep going back to it. I inquired when they were doing their big rollout advertising push on their Facebook page, on one of their posts, about pans. Because I was curious. I'd been seeing them and I wanted more information. And when I clicked into their website, the information I was looking for wasn't there. And it was, what is the nonstick coating made of? Because their gimmick is that they, if you've never seen them, if you don't know what we're talking about, first of all, you're currently on the internet, you could look it up. But they're a nonstick pan with a hexagonal pattern on the inner surface of the pan. So this is a nonstick pan with no pattern. This is just the nonstick coating is just right here. So they have an exposed stainless steel grid, hexagonal grid, so that if you take like a metal implement, I'm not going to actually put a metal implement, we're going to use a wooden one, and scrape it across. Ooh, this needs a, or maybe that's the, one of these two things needs a quick wash, because I just left a little smear. So if you do this, it won't touch the nonstick. It'll glide over the top of the nonstick and hit only the metal bits. So it's supposed to be a very good nonstick surface that is also protected from scratching by the metal bit. And that's my understanding of the selling point. The question I asked was, what is the nonstick coating made of? And they outright refused to answer. Like, they replied to my response with they didn't just ignore me. They replied telling me what it was not made of. And when I then asked for, okay, but what is it made of? They refused to answer. They declined to comment on that part of it. We're making breadcrumbs the old-fashioned way here. So that has me suspicious, just because if the company isn't going to talk about the product, then I don't know anything about the product, and I hate that. So that's my opinion on Hexclad. I don't like the company because they don't want to talk about their product. They don't want to field questions about their product. So I cannot talk to the quality, just to the interaction with the marketing team. For all I know, they're great. It would be nice to see some truly independent reviewing of them. Rather than all the sponsor chefs. But I expect they went out of their way to hit the chefs that typically would do those reviews with sponsorships. Well, I want to see America's Test Kitchen do a run on them. Not that I think America's Test Kitchen is infallible, but they typically have very unbiased reviews of things and no particular brand loyalty. Anyway, there's our breadcrumbs. Let's get them out of their bag, which has ruptured slightly because of the sharpness of the bread. Much more consistent than the last time we made breadcrumbs. I hope that was a thorough response. What are we looking at? We have 7 minutes remaining on the squash. I'm going to take a peek. It looks remarkably the same as it did when I put it in. Ugh. The floor is all crunchy because of the bread. So I gotta taste this stuff. We gotta taste this stuff. Our mushroom sofrito mix, because I want to know what we're working with. So we're gonna give this a taste. So if you do try them out, I'm not gonna say either way whether you should, because I can't speak to them. Ooh. Ooh. Very savory. That could definitely carry some cream. Or do I want to do that to it? Very savory. Definitely don't want any more savoriness to this guy. What if I put a little bit of cornstarch into some cream so that the cornstarch well, the cream thickens on its own pretty well. I think I'm going to make a cream sauce, and then we're going to top it with herbed breadcrumb. Okay. So yeah, if you do ever end up encountering them, please let me know how they behave. I just think that the marketing around it has been kind of. Aren't they really expensive too? That's the other thing. Last week I was talking about those knives that I encountered in the Costco. The Cutco brand knives from the Costco, which were very pricey, and that itself had me sus of them. And when I did my research on them, there was information about them, because that's an older brand, much older brand. When I did my research on them, I found that they are not bad per se, but they're relatively cheaply made. So the very high price tag on them is unwarranted. So it's not that they're bad knives, it's just that they're worth about a tenth of what they're being sold for. They would be very nice knives at a tenth the price. At the price they are being sold, they're super not worth it. And that's kind of... Now the lifetime warranty, sure. They have a lifetime sharpening guarantee or something like that. Again, they're not bad knives. I wouldn't throw them out and replace them with a better knife. But I think if you don't already have them, they're not worth the asking price. You can get 10 sets of knives that are just as good in terms of quality, even if they wear out and don't have that lifetime guarantee. You can get another set, and that'll last you a lifetime. And that's kind of my opinion on those. There's a lot of parsley. The issue with Cutco, if you want to talk about the knives, they're not forged knives. They're stamped knives, which is and they use the steel they're made of is fine. It's nothing terrible, but it's nothing to write home about. But because they are stamped out of a big sheet of steel instead of forged out of knife blanks, they're super uniform in thickness, which good knives, you typically don't want that. If we look at a knife, this is my go-to standard chef's knife. We were using my Santoku earlier, which is got some similar properties. Especially if you look at the blade, it's thick there, and it's thicker here, and it tapers out to the point. Those Cutco knives are the same thickness all the way along until they reach the point where they've been sharpened. Because it's this big sheet, they stamp it out, and then they run the edge along a sharpener. You typically want the tip of your knife, and I held one of them. So you want your knife's balance point to be, oops. Yep, and it's a little bit overbalanced. Well, if you hold it from the top, that's how you're supposed to do it. You want the knife to kind of be balanced somewhere right there. So like if I hold it too far to either end, it sags. So you want your balance point to be right where you're going to be putting the most control on it. And if your knife is too thick, too far out to the tip, it ends up tipping. And I did that to one of them, and I had a display with them. And they're too heavy out to the front. You end up having to hold the knife way up here somewhere to hit the balance point. And that's why I didn't like them. That's why I think the stamped isn't as good. Not that it's bad, and not that all of my knives fit that, but that's like the general. You want the center of gravity of the knife to be kind of right where your thumb and forefinger are going to hold it for maximum control. Do it this way. You know, like Thanos with the there. Like Thanos with the thing. You want your knife to balance right at that heel point. And actually, we just got these cheap knives from the thrift store, and I had them sharpened. Let's see how they perform. So their handles are a little bit too heavy, but not too bad. And honestly, for the average user, you're probably not going to use the knife enough for that to really matter. If you're cutting tons and tons of stuff all day long, you really want your knife to be ergonomic and have a really good balance point and all that sort of stuff. Knives are more than just the shape and the sharpness. There's other things to be concerned about. So parsley and dry bread, I think, is going to be our topper mixture thing. So I'm gonna cream that sauce. We're gonna cream that sauce. And I talked long enough for us to hit an hour on our squash, so we need to take that out. And Bookwoman has requested a moisten, so we'll do that real quick.
Moist.
Moist. So we're gonna move that out of the way, make sure that burner's not blazing hot. We're gonna take our squash out and take a look at it. It's been roasting for an hour. It's a little brown on this side. It's gone shiny. It's firm. We didn't explode, but it's still got a firmness to it. It doesn't cave in when I poke it. We're gonna have to give it a good cut in half to see how the inside is. There's also the seeds are still in there since we didn't scoop it out in advance. So that's also a consideration. I don't know what we're gonna find. I've never cooked a spaghetti squash quite like this before. So it's also actually not blazing hot to the touch, but it's going to be blazing hot on the inside for sure. It'll cool faster if I the faster I can break into it. So we're going to bring it over right away and get it split open. Oop. The bottom, where it was sitting on the pan, is very toasted. I don't have matched mitts, but I have like the squares that you can put your fingers inside. And I have one of these big rubber gloves, which I think we're going to use the big rubber glove here, since I want to be able to grip this thing. Oh, I also have one of these. We're going to use the one of these for my grip. That part's gone crispy. Stem detaches easily. That's a good sign that our interior is cooked. You can't eat the stem. It's like a piece of wood. This should cut easily. The outer skin of your spaghetti squash is like a piece of plastic. But it cuts, once you get through that skin, we can even demonstrate. The outer skin of one of these guys is like is like a sheet of plastic or tree bark or something. It's so tough, which is great for keeping the interiors interior, but you can't eat it. And then we want to get those seeds out of the middle, which I'm going to let it steam out a little bit before I go in there too hard, because I don't want to burn myself. But we got to get the seeds out. You can eat the seeds. They're just like pumpkin seeds. I almost used my fingers just now, and I'm going to be smarter about it and pull one out with a chopstick. They're just like pumpkin seeds, so they can be saved. These have obviously been cooked, so they can't be replanted. They're dead at this stage. If you wanted to save them, you would have had to cut it open when it was raw. Seeing how it might be a little undercooked, honestly. It might be just slightly under, which is super strange to me. Let me give it a quick taste. It cut easily, so that was a good sign. And the skin peels away easily, so that's also a good sign. Let me see, cut a little bit off of it and see what the texture's like. Tastes like squash. Got a little bit of a vegetable crisp to it, but it bites easily. At least that part did. Well, I guess we'll find out. It's not what I was expecting. It's not how it was when I've done it in the microwave. But it still might work. I mean, it's edible. Either way, it's edible. We're not in disaster territory. We're just in unexpected. We're gonna let it cool off a little bit on the side. We're gonna soldier forth with our other elements here. Okay. Our parsley breadcrumb stiff. Okay, that's pretty well mixed. And I want some cheese. And the Romano's the one that's open, so that's the one we're reaching for. Well, I won't know if it shreds properly until I get, like, if I just run the chopsticks over this corner down here, it doesn't feel like it's going to shred really well. But I can't really get into it with the chopsticks, and I don't want to go in with a fork and risk mixing the shreds into that. So we're going to get out a sharp-edged spoon. Get a sharp-edged spoon. Get out a sharp-edged spoon, and we're going to get that guts out of there. Because they've already stopped steaming, so we've lost most of our heat. No, I say most of. It's still blazing hot to the touch, but we've lost enough that I'm not burning myself just by putting my hand over the top. And I can easily get the seeds out. I don't know that doing it whole is actually any easier than cutting it. Well, it's much easier to cut it for sure if you cut it after it's cooked. I was about to say I don't think this was any easier than cutting it first, but no, definitely cutting it while it's raw is very hard. Cutting it and scooping it out now is just this is what makes this so much easier. Even though you have to handle it with mitts. Okay. Seeds and the most of that middle bit are out. Let's I mean it's shredding apart. It's not I don't think it's the most done it could be, but it's getting there. It probably could have stood another little bit in there, and I think honestly cutting it in half first probably gets you a more consistent result because you can check the interior before you pull it. But we're getting the strands. Ah, hot. But given that it's a little bit stiffer than I think I was expecting, I might finish it just for a little bit on the stove. Treat it more like a pasta. It is still hot. So it's al dente. Our spaghetti squash is al dente. So I guess if you are doing it in the oven the way I just did, overshoot like every recipe I looked at said do it for an hour. And I guess that's not a consistent answer. That it's got some variance, and I don't know how to check for doneness before you split it open. Honestly, as much as it pains me, microwave might be the easiest and most consistent way to do it. Because yeah, some parts of this feel a little tough, and I'm really kind of scraping them. The strands aren't as long because I'm really having to sort of dig in with the fork. And I'm losing some because it's stuck to the interior of the skin more than I have experienced in the past. Okay, learning experience. Like I said at the start, I've never done it in the oven as a whole roast like this. I wonder if because the fork was kind of breaking the strands apart. Get in there with the spoon. I never get these. This one was gifted to me, and I was like, I'll do spaghetti squash. Okay. Okay. So, little underwhelmed. Little underwhelmed. But we are going to roll with it. We're going to roll with it. We're coming over here, we're getting a new pan. We are starting the pan with a small quantity of butter. So since it came out a bit on the al dente side, I'm going to treat it like a noodle that came out a bit on the al dente side, and we're going to finish it in the sauce. We're going to cook it for a bit in the sauce on the pan to help it finish softening up. Hopefully. We'll find out together if this works. It might, and it might not. But I'm reasonably confident that we are going to get an edible result. It's definitely not what I was picturing at the beginning. We're already away from that. We might not use all of our mushroom stuff either. Now that I'm looking at this and sort of puzzling out what we're making. Okay. Well, this is part of the fun, troubleshooting when things don't go exactly to plan. Keep tidying as I go. Fresh recycling bag. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I blame me being hungry for this. Let's see. Is this pan cold enough to touch? Yes. Move that to the sink. We can. So I'm not putting anything in there until that butter's melted, so that's what I'm waiting on right now. Get all of our various tools. A preliminary rinse there. Okay. Okay. Butter. You have melted for me. Yes. So these have cooled off enough that I can handle them. So we're going to take advantage of that and kind of break them up with my fingers. Dropped that one in a really awkward place. I think we're coming back with a, yeah, they shred apart. This might not be the best idea either. Ow, that one's still hot. Oh, one of the ones at the top cooled off. Okay. That might not be the best idea either. We're switching to a wooden spatula. Because I don't want to destroy the strands. I want the strands to kind of stay together. But I want them to separate, so I need to apply some force. And that's probably as much as that pan can actually handle. Take some of the loose shreds. Okay, well, things are happening. Things are indeed happening. So, I said that I wanted to finish this in the sauce. At the moment, it's just sauteing in some butter, which is not correct. I also said we can turn that mushroom stuff into a cream sauce. So, we're adding some cream and some water. Yeah, I think that it needed to have roasted for a little bit longer than we had it in there. Temperature up, just a smidge. Add half of my mushroom stuff. And I guess it's turned into almost a stroganoff, but not really. I'll have to come up with a clever name so this sounds a little bit more appealing. It'll also look a lot better once the topping is on it. I was thinking that it would be nice yellow spaghetti squash strands with a sauce on top of it, but now it needs to be cooked in the sauce a little bit. So we're losing that nice yellow. Not that one. Okay, well, it's a thing. It's definitely going to be edible. Maybe spaghetti squash is just worse than I remember. That's also a possibility. I'm gonna taste it. Tastes good. Tastes like a creamy mushroom sauce with some slightly crunchy squash underneath it. Okay. Well, keep tidying, I guess. Now I understand why it was foisted upon me in the form of a gift. Tidy, tidy, tidy. Our standard pasta plate is, of course, the wide white ones here. I've got the lid on it so that it'll steam a bit, but we have to be mindful and watchful because there is cream in there, and that can definitely go weird on us if we lose track of it. Because honestly, the squash being a little bit al dente kind of makes it slightly unpleasant. But at least it has some nice strands to it. It's also a very blank slate flavor-wise. You add whatever you want to it flavor-wise. So what are we going to call this? Spaghetti squash stroganoff? Or we could misspell the stroganoff so that it emphasizes that it's not made correctly. Okay. I think that has been steaming enough for me to want to stir it. Okay. So who predicted that this was going to be our outcome? Well, I think that's about as done as it's going to get without me essentially starting over with a new project that uses this as an ingredient. So, hooray, we've survived. Oops. Let's bring it downtown, serve it up. It doesn't look the most appealing as is. Gonna be honest, a little disappointed on that front. Kind of looks like a brown mush. This stuff is going to help a lot. Still looks kind of like a mush. Still looks kind of like a mush. Okay, well, that's what I'm serving. That's our finished result. I said at the beginning I had an image in my head of what I wanted the plate to look like. This was not that image. This was not that image, and I don't think we did our best work today. But, pepper on the side of the... But that's what we got. And I've got enough to make a second dose of it. I'm going to go take our glamour shot. See if I can even get a good angle on this guy. Doesn't look so bad under the better light. Come on, camera. Okay, well, bring it back and give it the old tasteroo, because that's the stage we're at. I just had a fork. I just had a fork in my hand. There it is. Okay, well, let's give it a taste. It's hot. Number one, it's hot. It's tasty. It's mild. It's creamy, but not super creamy. It's very mushroomy, but honestly a lot less savory than I thought it was going to be based on just tasting the mushroom mix by itself. Let's get some with the cheese in it. I bet that'll help. It's underwhelming. It's very hot. It's very hot. Oh my God, it's hot. Okay, so it retains heat way better than pasta does. The squash is... The cheese helped a lot. Probably add more cheese as I go. Is that the little fire with glasses? That's amazing. The squash has stayed slightly vegetal. It definitely kicked off the al dente. This was a little al dente. I wish this color came through better, but I had to mix it in. Since I have the rest of that, I might run another experiment and take pictures and try to see if I can't make this, take a better picture of this with more of the bright yellow still in present. The whole thing is very mild. The fresh parsley helps a lot because what this needs is something bright, something to wake it up. All of our herbs and spices that went in there are definitely present, but amidst all of it, and with such a large quantity of a fairly bland, I mean, by itself, spaghetti squash is pretty bland. Very blank slate-ish. It kind of pulls all your flavors down with it in a weird way, as opposed to just being a blank slate on which you can stack flavors. It kind of drags all your flavors down a little bit. That's a decent idea, but instead of Tabasco, because it needs something to wake it up. It's just kind of flat. It's savory and creamy, but it's kind of flat. And the quantity of parsley in there helps quite a bit. So I'll do you one better, and we'll throw some Louisiana Crystal Hot Sauce, which is a good hot sauce. A good and cheap hot sauce with just two ingredients, vinegar and cayenne pepper. Damn. Yeah, no, that's perfect. Yeah, it needed some hot sauce. It's not even that it's spicy now. It's just that, so the hot sauce, which only has 2 ingredients, cayenne peppers and vinegar, adds a little bit of a spicy kick, but the vinegar, it adds a sharp sourness that wakes up our other flavors. That bite with the hot sauce tasted more mushroomy than the bites without the hot sauce. Good shout. Good shout on some hot sauce. I actually don't have any Tabasco, so we couldn't do Tabasco, but same idea. Just a thin vinegar-based hot sauce. Yes. No, that's perfect. That makes me think that the sauce part, when we were building it, needed a lemon or a vinegar or some sharp component to wake it up. Because I don't know that the spiciness is what it needed, but the sharpness. As soon as that hit my mouth, that woke it up. Wow, it's a lot better. It's a lot better with that in it. Look at the top of my head again. No, that makes it a lot better. No, and I added quite a bit of it, but this is it's such a big volume, and it has butter and cream in it. It's spiced it up, but it's not blow your head off. You could probably even add a dash more. It's really kind of a nice mild heat at the moment. No. Okay. Okay. Honestly, this stuff is weird. The spaghetti squash itself is kind of the problem here. This would be tasty. I think this would be really tasty with just spaghetti noodles. But okay. We could also have added some, there was no spicy peppers in the spice blend that we used. You could have added some there. I kind of like having the sprinkle of the hot sauce over the top. It sort of gives it a nice color. Because when I plated it and went for taking pictures, the thing that struck me was it needed something red to make the plate look better. We had a lot of green and kind of this tan color. We needed some red. I'm going to probably take another picture of this before I polish it off. Just because I think it looks better, and then I can talk about how it's better with a shot of hot sauce. Interesting. Well, that's why you guys are here. That's the only reason you guys are here. It's the only value I have in your viewership is when you can contribute. How would it go with Thai spices? Which Thai spices? That's a pretty broad category. I have another half of a thing here, so I can do experiments with it. I'm not going to cook another whole meal right now, but it's weird because the squash itself is so lank. It's almost like just eating water, crunchy water. It's so strange. You get a big enough piece of it, and it tastes like. What does it taste like? Like really mild parsnip. It's really mild. I don't know. It's not bad. I'm definitely not mad about it. The hot sauce means I'm actually a little bit happy with it. We got an ad coming up. I'm going to snooze that ad because we're not going to be doing anything that takes the time of that ad. I like the mushroom stuff. I don't know what much to say about this. It's kind of an odd duck. It's kind of an odd duck we've concocted here. Well, I guess I learned something. I'm not sure what I'll incorporate into my cooking going forward from this. I can't imagine seeking out spaghetti squash to do things with. It just seems like you could choose a better squash for the same price. Well, I'm going to wrap us up. Pop me back to my face. Because we're just crossed over 2 hours, and I just snoozed our ad so that it wouldn't interrupt my closing segment. I will be back on Monday here. I will also, let me ask, for people who are here, has there been any connection issues that you have noticed? I did something different with our internet connection today. I've dropped 0 frames. And I want to know if you noticed anything on your end different, out of the ordinary. I didn't want to say stuff all the way along, but there's quite a few of you still here, and it's a question to the audience. Did you notice anything out of the ordinary? Nobody piped up and said, oh, you're freezing or stuttering or anything, and none of my stuff disconnected. So that has me hoping that you guys didn't notice one lick of difference. And if that's true, we might have a good thing going, because this would be a better connection for me. Put that hot sauce away. I'm going to take it as a resounding no if nobody pipes up. Or maybe you can't hear me, because the connection is so bad. That's also a possibility. Someone say something, please. While you're thinking, I'm going to go pull up Twitch main and see who's on that we can ship you guys off to. We're avoiding the game that came out today, which is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I think we're going to go say hi to WeFormer. That seems like the best pick. Or we're going to see Toady, who's playing RimWorld. We're going to go say hi to WeFormer, who is making things again. Plush things. Ray is the only one who was paying any attention and didn't see anything out of the ordinary, which is good. I was hoping nobody saw anything out of the ordinary. Good. Yeah. So I will be back on Monday. I will see you all then. I don't know what we're making. But please jump into Discord if there's ever any questions, or if there's something you want to see me do. So some weird ingredient that you've heard of and you don't want to try it yourself, but you'd like to see what happens with it, love suggestions. We're going to count out before that ad hits, so I'm going to ignore that ad. And yeah, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being here. So many people chimed in, hauled out of lurk and said hi, and I appreciate it. It's always nice to have someone, to have all of you to chit chat with throughout the course of this. It makes it a much sunnier time for me, even though it's still dark. Yeah, so take care of yourselves. And I don't have a proper sign off, so I always wait for the timer. And there it goes. And then I push stop streaming.